Hello, dear friends, my lovely audiences. Welcome to the East West Show. Jack Chow, your show host with the G&E TV under the beautiful flag of EDI. Well, we do pay attention to everything around us, including our political life. For locally, we're talking about in Southern California, especially in California, a big term as a state though, we want to keep the same color, the same way California it is. If you really want to do so, if you're really serious about doing it, though, please do it my way. My way is that I call it representation hyphen the key to democracy. You have it, you have democracy. You don't not have a democracy. Today with me is my good friend, candidate for California State Senate, 29th District, Mr. Bruce Whitaker. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jack. It's great to be here, and it's great to finally have an election date. It had been a long time coming. We've been long delayed, but we will not be denied in that effort.
Very good, very good. We have been delayed, but we are no longer being denied, right? Mr. Bruce Whitaker has been a twice mayor for the city of Fullerton. Fullerton, the city, as a matter of fact, before 2012, the name of Fullerton was only a name. But since then, the name no longer stands for only a name. It stands for, under the leadership for my friend, Mr. Bruce Whitaker, I call ideology. The ideology being that we people, we taxpayers, deserve to be represented. So I will start the whole discussion with you today from the point of how you define the word or the term representation, please.
Well, as a representative of the people, any elected official needs to do their bidding in large part. That's the whole idea in a democracy where a majority of people drive policy. And if you have elected officials that are only working from their own shoes or their own preferences, you don't really have accurate representation. Whoever you elect needs to be out in the community, talking with people, understanding, taking the pulse of business and everything, and being able to translate that into policy that is supported, that the people support.
So, in your interpretation, if I understand you right though, the position is kind of a channel through which the constituents' voices are heard, right?
Absolutely.
The constituents' rights are represented. Otherwise, so it's not a way of our democracy working, right?
Right. If you're not representing accurately your constituents, then it becomes a club. It becomes some kind of a power club in whatever legislative body, in this case Sacramento, where they serve themselves and they don't serve the interests of people. And then they often wind up serving special interests, powerful special interests that want unfair advantages, and they want to twist law to their benefit.
Thank you, thank you. Very, very excellently said. My dear audience, my lovely audience, as I have to explain myself a little bit, I feel ashamed that at this age, 2018, on this job, for doing the same kind of show for the 6th year, I believe, I still have to work on the definition of representation. That's a slam on the face. The slam on the face of democracy. Because, well, we're supposed to understand it before we have it, right? Now, the fact is that at this very moment, at least, I find out that within the territory of the 29th District of the Senate House of California, though, the word still need to be clarified. So, that is a shame, that is not a shame. Am I right?
Oh, it is a shame, and it is troubling to me because here we are in the heart of Southern California, and worldwide, Southern California is equated with success. It's all about success. It's all about better quality of life, better opportunities, the ability to really fully express yourself as individuals in every way. And now we're being inhibited by these policies which are treating us as though they are the master and we're here to serve them.
Yeah.
It's quite the opposite. And it's time for us to flex our muscle collectively and say, no, you're getting things backwards here. We are the boss. We want to return to that golden era of California. We can do it. We actually have it within our power to make that happen.
I should say thank God that we in Southern California have people like Mr. Bruce Whitaker, who is so willing, number one, to serve, number two, to analyze what's wrong with the 29th district at least, right? And number three, to walk out, say, I'm the one, right? I wish I could say I'm the one, but I'm not qualified. I haven't done as much as he did in his beautiful town, right? So now, what do you see in your eye as being wrong with the 29th district? And I heard many calls on the recall signature process.
Well, what's wrong? There's so many things wrong right now with our government. We have a low productivity government. We give them large amounts of our money, basically, or they take that money, and then we see very little for it. And what's happening is it creates limitations for us. We're a region that competes nationally and internationally for business to be able to provide jobs locally, and our government is a major impediment to that. It burdens us with additional costs that we see no value for, and it makes us less competitive. Secondarily, a lot of regulations coming from Sacramento now are taking away local control. We have Sacramento now telling us how to do our zoning and what's allowable and what isn't, and basically micromanaging every city. And I hear this from throughout the 29th district. And I know council members and other mayors feel the same.
All right, that's a good analysis from another perspective. And what is the recall thing? What's wrong with the recall? What's wrong been there that caused a recall?
Well, what caused a recall is a response to that lack of representation. It's the voters pulling rank on their elected officials and saying, we don't like what you're doing, your performance is substandard. And in fact, we are dismissing you. You need to be removed, or at least putting up that question so the voters can decide whether to remove an elected official or not. It's necessary in this case because locally, our representative, Senator Newman, is voting the same way as the majority, the supermajority in California, to impose greater costs upon us at a time when the economy can't really bear that. I heard something today that the estimate now is the average family is going to be paying almost $800 more annually because of the gas tax increase alone. And that's even before cap and trade comes in and makes larger exactions from us. But there's one other thing. You know, the recent federal tax cut, there are a lot of companies, major companies, Walmart is putting out to their employees a $1,000 bonus because they're wanting to share that. Well, if you look at it, California is taking almost every bit of that bonus with the gas tax alone. But there are many other ways that California's state government is making life expensive in California.
The headache to me is really that the gasoline tax thing was not an issue that the voters were agreed upon. Right? How come they would impose? What kind of a play or political game they play, they made it a pass. That is the dirtiest part that we have to point it out.
It is. The majority party fell into an advantage after that last election cycle. They achieved a supermajority, which removed our historic right as voters to have a say in taxes. And they pressed that advantage. They still could have done it the right way. They could have put the idea out for voters to see whether voters would ratify those gas tax increases or not. They chose not to do that, so they just imposed, they rolled right over us. And now the recall itself is a reaction to that, as people saying, wait, the government serves us, we don't serve you. And it's one of those rare opportunities where we get a chance to fire someone who's really doing the wrong things. And we need to do that. I want to very much advocate a yes on recall against Senator Newman.
If rhetorically we want to use a right term, though, can we name the recall a firing by the taxpayers?
Right. He's being dismissed. He's being removed. And then there's an immediate replacement election that is part of that process. And I am a candidate in the replacement election, and I very much want to earn the votes of people out there who feel similarly. And I know that from polling even statewide, the gas tax is very unpopular, and we're seeing that even in efforts now, direct efforts to repeal those gas taxes.
To confirm it with my audiences, if I'm wrong, just to correct it, Mr. Josh Newman is fired by the California constituents within the district that he is supposed to be representing. Am I right?
Right, and those taxes passed by one vote. So he was effectively the deciding vote on this matter. And that's why we get a say again. We break the supermajority. If you were to remove Senator Newman, put me in his place, we would have again restored the right of the voter's voice in these matters on tax increases. That's what makes this so important, even statewide.
Very good, very good. I myself normally do not choose a stand myself, choose a position myself. As a media man, I never do, or I seldom do, unless it is a humanity issue. It is a right or wrong issue. It is a black or white issue. We are taxed to bones already. Why are they still taxing us? For this coming year, I paid $493 for my renewal of my registration.
Wow.
And now, last night, I was traveling around almost the whole small city to get the cheapest stand for a gasoline refill, and I paid $3.09. Forget it. I don't want it. That's the basic of politics, right?
Right.
The basic of politics says if lots of people say, forget it, go to hell, I don't want it, and then you're done. That's why, well, a man gets fired.
Right.
Am I right? Okay. Let's take a short moment now. When we come back, we'll find out what's happening after the firing. Hello, dear friends, my lovely audiences, my dear fellow Californians. This is exactly a time to talk about our own California. Today with me is my good friend, Mr. Bruce Whitaker, twice mayor of Fullerton and candidate for the California Senate House 29th District, Mr. Bruce Whitaker.
Thank
Once
you, Jack.
again,
Pleasure
welcome
to be
the show.
with you.
All right. I'm so glad that I have the opportunity to sit face to face to a future California legislator, and I can almost advance it, Mr. Senate, right? Mr. Senator. Yes, anyway, let's be realistic. How am I so sure about his office? Is because that district, people are getting tired about not being represented. Now that you have somebody willing to represent the people there, of course, whoever is the one gets office, right? Now, as I said at the very end of the last segment, though, what happens with this recall after this man, Josh Newman, is fired?
Right, immediately after the recall, right paired with it, the very same vote is the replacement election. And the highest vote getter is immediately ushered into that seat. So whomever is the successful replacement candidate, and that needs to be me for your benefit, I would be seated relatively immediately. And that allows the process, it breaks the supermajority, it restores the voters' authority in these matters, and it allows me to be a very loud voice on your behalf.
All right.
It's something I look forward to.
Sure, that's why I work so hard. I'm not only working for your benefit, I'm working for my own benefit because I need the kind of representation I wanted, right? Yeah. Okay, now, how many of you fellow candidates for the same seat?
Right now, I know of only 2 other credible candidates, but it's being consolidated right now. It's the nominating span right now, which is going on, and it's of course parts of 3 different counties. So you have 3 different registrars working. So daily they do an update, and I assume that the news media will be putting out anybody else who throws their hat in the ring. So at this late date, you know, the recall should have already happened. It was mangled, the supermajority mangled the process and dragged it all the way out now to the June primary. So we need to show our dissent about that as well. A resounding yes on recall for Senator Newman is really what's called for, because the state government defied the voters even on a recall on the normal process. They were trying to defeat that effort. And so we will know when the field is set in about 3 weeks or so.
All right.
And then the nomination papers go in, and at that point the field will be set. Once the field is set, the election really takes from there.
In other words, we can't afford a blank seat over there, can we?
No, in fact, we don't have representation that way either. So you immediately make a replacement, and you have to hit the ground running. And that's where my experience comes in handy, I think. I've worked in county government, state government, city government.
Whoever can start the action right away gets the job, because we can't afford any vacancies.
Well, Senator Newman's been allowed another 6 months runtime here beyond what he should have been allowed with the recall process. He's been sitting in the state Senate and making decisions that are contrary to us, because the normal recall process would have already concluded. This would have already happened in November.
Is that a new law or what?
It was new laws passed by the supermajority to protect Josh Newman. And the governor signed that readily, because they are all members of the same club. They want to shut out the voters' authority in these matters. They want to impose their own authority. And
can we even overturn that new law, quote unquote?
Oh yes, yes. And the beginning is to elect people who are going to represent the constituents over. I mean, one person, I alone, can't overturn everything happening in Sacramento.
Yeah, by logic, it is not sounding at all.
Right.
Because you are already fired. You do not even have a job duty to act on the position. True. And there's the door, walk out the door, that's where you go. Right?
And then that's an example for all the other electeds. They see that that can happen in their own districts if they fail to listen to their constituents. So it can be the beginning of improving things.
Okay. Could we please ask you, once you walk into the office, though, have the new law, quote unquote, overturned or changed, or at least a bill to overpush it?
Well, I will certainly introduce and make motions, efforts to do so. I would still arguably be in the minority. So it begins that process of us pushing back. The really big effort at overturning and repealing those gas taxes is a statewide initiative right now, which is being driven in large part by Carl DeMayo in San Diego. And they are achieving signatures at a record rate. It looks possible that this will be plated up for us to vote on. And if it is, there are elements in that initiative which would permanently allow voters a say in gasoline tax increases. They wouldn't be allowed. And a statewide initiative would have authority over the elected body in Sacramento.
All right. And there's another aspect, a whole aspect we need to pay attention to, because there are so many city complaints about the state overseeing or the state hand on the job doing of interfering into your city business. So is that a big chunk to talk about?
Oh, it's a very large chunk. And as it relates to SB1, to the transportation taxes, they're trying to say that this was a good thing, imposing all these taxes, because the cities will get some money to repair roads. We need our roads repaired. But I did a calculation, and we're going to be paying in the city of Fullerton $19 million a year to get back $2.5 million for street repair.
Oh.
It's a very bad deal by every measure, and most of the money goes elsewhere. Right?
The mathematics wouldn't work.
Right, so they're trying to sell this as a benefit. They're trying to tell cities, oh, this is good for you because we take 87% of the money and we take back 13% to you. It's not a good deal.
I see. So, in other words, once you're in office, you have one more job to do. You have to, well, if I could recommend, though, put the city efforts together to represent those cities, to voice out, say, not only our constituents want that way, our city at different levels, at different angles, also needed to be changed like that.
Well, you know, cities are on the brink of bankruptcy now with all the pension liability, debt, and everything. And we got it in a council meeting last night that the picture is horrendous. A huge crater in the budgets going forward for the next 20 years.
Oh.
And most cities are in that same boat. I encourage council members and mayors to speak up and to push back against policies from Sacramento that we simply can't shoulder, that we can't tolerate. And to me, that's true representation. I used to not understand why people always said, gee, I'll fight for you, because it seems like you should be able, business-like, to solve problems. But with the interests and the special interests, you really have to pry their fingers off that revenue.
Exactly.
You have to force them to do the right thing. And so it is very much someone who you need to go and fight on your behalf in Sacramento. I've been doing it for 25 years, and I look forward to an opportunity to go mix it up there on your behalf.
Sometimes I represent you, I'll work for you, is more a slogan than action.
Right.
And I here at my job have encountered many situations like that. They can tell you beautifully about their slogans, but as to work for you, I would, well, represent you. Those are the fake slogans.
Well, and here's another slogan, you know, the proof is in the pudding, right? So what we're experiencing now, and the way that we compare with other states, I mean, California ranks near the bottom in so many categories now. And I'm a believer in free markets and free trade. The state often just gives us only one alternative and boxes us in. So we need to empower ourselves as consumers of even government services and make sure that we're getting a good deal for that, that we're not spending exorbitantly for that, and then that they're not using that power to regulate us in such a very negative way, to take away the very drive that business and individuals have to prosper. So when it's that heavy-handed regulation from Sacramento, I hear as much complaint about as the taxation, but both have a very undermining effect.
Okay. Sir, I really have to convince myself that you, even from last time, I can see the difference, that you really think like a state legislator rather than a city mayor. Of course, you're still thinking about your city because you just talk about your own city budget, right? Right. On a higher elevation, we're talking about as a whole management of the state level. Right. At the state levels, though, I know there are issues has been polarized because there are politics you're talking about.
Sure.
There are issues that non-partisan. Right? I will say that I would only hope that our legislators, our representatives, would tell a way of these non-partisan issue from the partisan issue. Do you think we can do that, or you can do that, please?
I think we have to do that, because those who would polarize and would drive wedges between all of us, it's a way of dividing and conquering us. We really need to set aside some of our differences and enact good public policy. And I find when I'm campaigning, I talk to everyone, you know, decline to state voters, voters of every party, and the problems are the same for all of us. And what we need to do, I see the biggest solution, just in a broad brush, is we the people need to impose back on people who are trying to be our masters the fact that they serve us. We all have that in common. And so some people say, well, that's a populist approach. You can apply whatever label that you want. But to me, it's accurate representation of the people, and that is who we serve. Even our oath of office really reinforces that we serve the people, we serve those constituents.
I'm really feel in this celebrative mood that till today we still have a human being who swearingly say that I want to work for the people. And because that is only a slogan, because most of the time they enslave you rather than serve you. They enslave you rather than serve you. For example, for the tax increase, I mean the gasoline tax increase, I wasn't even aware of.
Wow.
So that's the shame. Today with me is my good friend, somebody I respect a lot. Oh, by the way, my audience is kind of over these years, they trusted that I'm a good guy. So most of the time they buy what I buy. Okay, anyway, thank you very much. And I'm not doing your credit, I'm doing my own credit, all right? I'll take a short moment now. When we come back, we'll continue finding what do we have, what extra hope do we have in this great individual, in this great friend of mine, once he comes into office of California Senate. Stay with us, please. Hello, my dear friends, lovely audiences. Ladies and gentlemen, my dear fellow Californians, welcome back to the show. Jack Chow having a good time with my good friend, Bruce Whitaker, mayor, twice mayor of the city of Fullerton, and he is, most importantly, the candidate for the 29th District of California Senate House, which has just fired its quote-unquote representative, and I believe his political life is adjourned, right? So as of June something, or if not right now. Anyway, I always do this as a pattern. I'm always checking with a candidate about his readiness of going to the office, of taking the office, right? If qualifies, I will be happy. If not qualified, I can still go on checking, right? Now, as not a brand new issue, there are some old issues I would like to use to check about your ideology. May I please?
Sure.
All right, please. What's your take of AB 109 as its consequences, please?
Well, I think it's important that we install reasonable approaches to regulation and to protecting the public, to creating safeguards, to whatever new directions we take public policy-wise. Of course, the decriminalization of cannabis has been driven by the public. It's been people-led initiatives which have achieved majorities, and we have to respect that authority in terms of their views on the way that we've been dealing with this, which federally is still a Schedule I narcotic. And so we've been kind of at a standoff for a very long time on this topic. But whether it's been decriminalized or not, of course it's been happening. It's the major agricultural crop in our state of California. And there are huge amounts of money that drive.
Let's stay with the AB 109 first.
Sure.
About the early release, the jail alignment thing, right?
Right.
So as a politician, as a future senator of California, do you think we should check about our readiness before we impose AB 109 to let so many out on the street?
Well, so many have already been let out, and so many criminal penalties have been reduced that we're seeing it. We're seeing it in our neighborhoods, and there is a need for us to redirect some of our focus on ensuring that people are safe. So you're right, it's increasing the hazard. At the same time, California has historically really high levels of incarceration with huge costs. And it's proven statistically the longer people spend in incarceration, sometimes the more hardened criminals they become. So the idea of rehabilitating or getting them back in the community is something that I support generally, but you can't just do it like in broad brush method. You can't just empty all those cells.
Flip-flop thing, right?
Right, because you create unnecessary burdens on public safety, on policing, and we need to have some stability in our neighborhood. So if that means hanging on to people who are more threatening criminals, we need to do that. We need to keep them incarcerated.
I see, I see. In other words, as a politician of California, you would prefer a way of stepping down rather than one day in jail, one day out on the street.
Right, right. I mean,
Giving
just the
them
wholesale.
giving them a hallway or a stepping down way, step 3, step 2, step 1, like that, right?
Right. Right, our legal system relies on review at an individual basis. So it isn't just all of a sudden everybody in this category gets released, right? So what we want is individual justice for the most part. And if you just empty large segments of jail cells, you're not really looking at that independently. There are some people who are incarcerated on relatively lower level, and that's what the voting public has been trying to. Yeah.
And I really have a little insertion here to mention, because I came across people who totally go against the AB 109, and I have people who are totally supporting AB 109, right? And it sounds, after checking with you, it sounds you are more sober-minded as a politician, because that's our problem anyway, one way or the other, right? Overflowing of incarceration and or other overflowing on the street. What if we have somewhere in between, give them rehabilitation?
Right.
All
Yeah,
right,
you're right. The polar extremes, you just can't go from
either
one
way,
to the other.
either way, right?
The answer is in the middle somewhere.
All right.
I believe that.
Very good, very good. I prefer that kind of politics, and I like those amicable way to handle problems. Okay, you know, there is a certain way. If you happen to be a fine artist, they say the biggest challenge is do the gray. There's a zillion ways of doing gray. There's one way doing black. You black painted, right? There's one way of doing white. You just white painted, that whole thing. However, in gray, doing gray though, there could be a zillion ways. So that is the challenge.
Oh, I agree. So often these questions are more complicated. Now, it achieved kind of it's been called nuance a lot. You can nuance yourself into inaction, to not doing anything.
Yeah, you're right.
But we're elected to do the will of the people. And we will experiment sometimes socially. And if it's not working, you need to help lead the effort to step back in and talk to your constituency and say, what direction should we go in? So you're constantly making adjustments in a democracy.
I believe it is rather important that you lay out where you are after, right? There are people going to the right, there are people pursuing to the left. And it is rather important that me, Bruce Whitaker, neither pursuing for the left nor am I going to the right. I'm thinking of doing the right way, doing the right thing in the right way. And for that, it's just like what? Just like EDI, where we never play left, we never play right, we always stay in the middle. So we have friends from the left and right. And I believe that you have support, you will have vote from the left and the right.
Well, people are afraid of crime, so you do have those sides where throw the book at everybody and lock them up forever. We can't afford that kind of a policy, and that's unjust, basically. But on the other hand, you have people that want to mollycoddle criminals and want to kind of always see something good, even when these people are repeat offenders over and over. Yeah, you're right, the answers are in the middle, and I think we need to discriminate and take, as our system is, justice down to the individual level. And work our way through that.
I would have to advance a little bit to my audience that at least within the 29th District of California Senate House, we are expecting somebody who is not playing politics, he is playing things in the right way. That is my friend, Bruce Whitaker. Thank you for being that. I thank you for your quality, though. Let's take a very short moment now. We will come back, find out more in this man. Please stay with us. Hello, dear friends, my lovely audiences, my dear fellow Californian and Angelinos, welcome back to the show. I really cherish this valuable moment with my good friend, Bruce Whitaker, twice mayor of city of Fullerton, and he is the candidate for California Senate House 29th District. And I believe he's more than ready. And this is probably the fourth or the fifth discussion with him. We went deeper and deeper and deeper until we reached those fundamental layer of his, I would say, concept. I like this, his mindset. I like his concept. And I even like back then in 2012, where he stood in the Kelly Thomas case. May I please recall a little bit about the Kelly Thomas case?
Oh, sure.
All right. And there, that year, on the July 5th, I believe, evening, a homeless guy who has been homeless, of course, he was a lunatic, and who was known as a lunatic on the street of no harm, no nothing, quote unquote, according to LA Times, that was a landmark person in city of Fullerton, was beaten to death by 6 police officers. And later, it took about a long, long time, an investigation or even the court processing, however, closed-doored. Why they closed doors, I don't know why they closed doors. And the verdict came out that all the 6 went out free man, right? It is my friend, Bruce Whitaker, the only one among the 5 of the council members who has his own take. Please, sir, you want to refresh your memory, please, that I feel proud of you?
Well, thanks, Jack. I was elected in 2010, so I'd been on the council about 7 months at the time that this occurred. And when I got reports of what had occurred the night before and the fact that everything was captured on a Homeland Security provided video.
Yeah, video camera, yes.
I became a strong advocate of releasing that so that the public could know what happened. There were a lot of reports from the field which were conflicting. And so I was for openness for releasing that. Unfortunately, POBAR, Peace Officers' Bill of Rights, allows sometimes in investigations, well, all the time basically, to hide away and bottle up that information from the public. I think that's unhealthy because just like a boil or something, it gets worse unless you actually open it up. And in the end, that information is going to be the same. The idea of hiding it away from the people, it creates distrust. So I was looking to open up the situation, and later on when the district attorney did release the video, so many people who watched it were fairly horrified with what they saw. And I think it's important the public does have a right to know in these issues. It's the only way that we can adjust public policy going forward properly.
And my dear audience, if you recall, go back to check about 2012, and it is across the line, across the all media. You have the picture before and after for Kelly Thomas. He was 25 years old at that time, before and after. I swear to God that when you look at the after picture, you're gonna vomit. That is not, it doesn't even look like a human face. Question is that how would a human face change within a few minutes from this image 1 to image 2, right? It is my friend Bruce Whitaker who took a strong stand to say, we have to trust the public. The public will give us the right judgment. Just go ahead and release it, don't bottle up, right? If you keep it, you would like to, it would be like you keep a wound covered seriously, no auction going on. It's going to rot in that part, right? So that is one, he is the one. And then later on, in all the judgment, all the even the verdict came out, he was the one that he says, Kelly Thomas, that in the Kelly Thomas case, justice was not served. From that point on, I handpicked the man. I said, Mr. Bruce Whitaker, gonna be my representative. Now here it is. Here he is, the representative, the candidate for the 29th District of California Senate House. Sir, I seriously thank you for being who you are, for having that kind of a mindset.
Well, thank you, Jack. And of course, you mentioned Kelly Thomas's schizophrenia, right? Which was something beyond his control. And it's important in law enforcement to deal with people as you find them. And law enforcement's goal is to apprehend people, take them into custody. It's not to mete out justice at all.
Yeah, all right.
So that's why these questions need to be looked at. I know they're painful from every direction, but we can't put blinders on and act like it didn't happen. I will refuse to do that in every case. Anything similar that happens, I'm going to be an advocate for that fresh air and sunlight to be able to help disinfect.
My audiences, I call upon you to listen again one more time about this statement. Please, sir, I would have to ask you to say it twice, It is so important to California politics.
Well, our elected officials need to take the point and create fresh air and sunlight on all of our problems that we have, and to dissect them and put them out in front of the public.
Let the voters see what's happening.
Right. Why would you hide away important information with which they make decisions like who to vote for, what policies to support, what initiatives to vote yes or no on?
Right.
Voters need that information.
All right. And I believe Mr. Whitaker mentioned another point, which is so super important, is that we understood, everybody understood, even the media says it, even the city council convinced it that Kelly Thomas was a lunatic. He has his mental problem. He will not react the same way that I react. For example, on the ground, I, a normal person, hearing the word on the ground, the three words, I will be on the ground, right?
Yes.
In Kelly Thomas' case, he is not on the ground, he is running. Now, this very point, they go back to their police protocol, say, if you can't stop it by saying on the ground, you can chase, right? And then Kelly Thomas starts running faster, and they say, stop. Okay, on the protocol say, if they can't stop after you yell stop, you can shoot. And then they shot, something like that. It goes on and on and on and on. Even though as a fact in the public, they say Kelly Thomas was a lunatic, but in the process of laying justice as just place, they did not apply the fact that Kelly Thomas was out of his normal mind into consideration. And Bruce Whitaker is the man who strongly hold it. That is the fact, and show the fact to the audiences, show the fact to the public. The public will tell you what to do.
Here's the beauty of what the district attorney decided in finally releasing that video, is it's out there even today on YouTube. And I think it's the right of every voter to be able to look at that, even though it's not easy to watch, and make their own decision. Not have someone else tell you what you should think, but just watch that video, make your own decision. That's the right way to deal with these. We need information that isn't spun, that isn't fake news or whatever. We need the data to be able to make our decisions. And that's, as an elected official, I feel that way, and as a constituent, I feel that way.
I, on behalf of all my audience, ask you a favor, a big favor.
Sure.
Keep the quality, please.
Oh, thanks.
Keep up the quality, keep up the good work, because you have a beautiful set of mind. You have a beautiful set of ideology and a concept that we like. In terms of representation, we would rather, if we pay the same amount of tax now, we will be happy paying the same amount of tax for somebody with this kind of quality, please.
Well, thank you, Jack. I appreciate that.
I sincerely said it. And this is normally, I make a disclaimer, say, hey, whatever I say just represents only myself. No, not today. I'm saying that what I say here represents my audiences. I dare say my audience will like it.
Thank you.
Right, sir? All right,
Yes.
good. Now I need your information about your campaign website, campaign contact, or any way to donate. My people want to support you, whoever.
Great.
You want my cameraman put the information on the screen? What?
Yes, that would probably be best, because otherwise, but I would solicit that support. I need that support. We're running a true grassroots campaign. I don't get the big special interest money. I really want to represent you and not those special interests. I'd much rather have many smaller contributions or donations than the big money.
Right. Good.
And so everyone who's able to help, I'd appreciate it greatly, and we're going to get the job done.
Yeah, sure. I would have to say a little bit more on this one. If some say, hey, pharmacy says that they gave you like $800,000, right? And then with the $800,000, you represent only one pharmacy, right? He would divide the 800,000 to 800,000 people, each with $1. How about that kind of representation?
That'd be great. I mean, obviously, there is a limit. The high limit is $4,400. That's the maximum amount that you can receive in support individual contributions. And I solicit that, especially because I intend to defend Prop 13 and their efforts to try to really escalate costs on property owners of all sorts, residential, business, and everything.
Understand.
And we need to send people to Sacramento who are going to fight that very strongly. I'm one of those people. Please do what you can to get me up there so I can lead that fight.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever paid attention to your gas hole of a car? Mm-hmm. It has. You never worry about sometime you put a wrong gasoline into it, right, because the size has it, right? Mm-hmm. In politics, mm-hmm, your size is the Kelly Thomas case. Oh. Nobody can run over that. Oh, and I want my audience to take that as the gas hole size, diameter. Anything bigger than that will never go through Mr. Whitaker.
The right fit, huh?
The right fit.
I
all right?
Appreciate that.
Okay.
Thanks.
I recommend that you use that
okay,
as a campaign slogan.
Perfect.
Please. All right. I allow only this much.
I appreciate it.
All right. My dear audience, we're a little over time, but I'm still very glad that I did my part of supporting. I believe I'm not only supporting him, I'm supporting California, I'm supporting myself. Mr. Bruce Whitaker, candidate for 29th District of California Senate House, I wish him, and on behalf of my audience, we wish him good luck. We wish him take the office, do the right job in the right way. We need somebody like that. And the information is on the screen, so go ahead, contact them for doing what you want to do. So thank you very much for watching. And to you.
Thank you, Jack, and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Well. Happy New Year to you.
Good to see you.